Hey everyone, my name is Penny Zenker, and it's time to reset. This podcast goes beyond just navigating change. It's about new ways of thinking about how you can approach challenges, how you can shift your mindset when needed, create some space and grace for yourself so that you can rethink, recharge, and reprioritize when and where needed. Are you ready to unlock your full potential? Thank you for hitting play and sharing this next episode with me. It's time to reset. Hi, and welcome to Take Back Time. My name is Penny Zenker, and I'm your host. And I'm always looking for ways to help you to think, act, and be more strategic in how you show up and how you approach your time and your goals and your money. So today I'm excited to talk with Taylor Foley. He's an actor and been acting in films and television since he was 6 years old. And he's also an accomplished film and stage performer. And he's done productions including Freddy vs. Jason, Door to Door, Carrie, and the musical Ragtime. He's also passionate about helping others to confidently take the stage and really impact an audience with their stories. He's currently managing director of Total Buy-In and author of the #1 best-selling book, The Power to Speak Naked. Wow. Well, I want to talk about that. That would be fun. Just get out there and be naked. I hope that means being vulnerable and not actually taking off all your clothes. But Tyler, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you for having me, Penny. And truth be known, it's a multi-pronged title. And you are correct. The main source of that is to be vulnerable, to share your raw, naked truth. But in all honesty, if I could empower people to feel that their message was important enough that they could speak it and be so engaging, so engrossing for their audience that didn't matter what they were wearing, if they could get away with a nude show, I wouldn't be upset.
Is that like the end game? So if you're training someone, they have to get up and stand there naked and engage people so that they're not paying attention to the fact that they're naked.
The end goal is to have them that entertaining, that empowered, that they could if they wanted to. But it's never a thing that I would push on somebody. That said, I have been challenged once. I got heckled in an audience once where a gentleman would not cease and desist with his, "Hey, naked boy, take off your clothes," heckling. And years of theater training, 35 years of experience came to play. And I answered the call. I said, listen, if you really need to see me stripped down naked, I can't do it right now. And it's not because I don't want to. It's because I'm definitely going to get in a lot of trouble from various legal authorities if I just strip down naked on this. But I am willing to come back here next week because I always book a venue for two, for insurance, just in case, right? So we had the venue booked for when I was performing and we had it the week later. And I said, if you are willing to put your money where your mouth is and support a good cause, if everybody in this auditorium agrees to pay 4 times the ticket price that they paid today to come back here, because Tyler don't get naked for free, I will redo this 45-minute talk for you, sans clothes, and we will donate all the proceeds to the local charity. And so we supported the food bank, and that was a fun thing to do. And the dude never even showed up. That was the great thing. I made everybody pay up front so that I could then pay all the lawyers and insurance folks and venue to figure out what needed to be in place. And a lot of people showed back up. I think about 80% of the people did actually come because they paid for the ticket, and then they might as well see the freak show.
Well, I mean, I think that's an interesting demonstration of what you're teaching is to see, well, can he really do it in the context of, like you said, be entertaining enough and engaging enough that in a very short period of time, nobody's even paying attention to that.
And yeah, I think it was more awkward for the audience at first than it was for me because I really don't care.
Right.
And I was happy to do it. Mind you, I cranked the heat in the room to make it a little bit more comfortable for moi. But that was it. And I think it was a little bit weird for them because I think at first they were like, is he really going to, this is actually happening. Like he didn't lie. This was, because it wasn't like it was a burlesque tease or anything. It was the power to speak naked. And I was going to give the 45 minutes nude. But it was ultimately, it was a great exercise to show that I can put my money where my mouth is. I'm willing to do it. And I believe that people don't have to do that, right? But I want them to have the strength and the courage in their message that really ultimately it doesn't matter what you're wearing. It doesn't matter if you have a PowerPoint or a presentation. It doesn't matter the gimmicks. As long as you can be authentic with your message and truly believe in your message, then all the rest of it is superfluous and you can just go about with your business and do it. And so that, it was a fun thing to do. Any charity needs to raise it, I would do it again, but I'm not doing it unless the money's going to a good cause because it's cold.
Yeah. It's funny. So my mind is, I'm the focusologist, right? So my mind is thinking about how interesting, we could shift that conversation. You talked about the heckler who's, out there or what we're wearing and all the things that might distract us from the thing it is that we're doing, the focus, the goal that we want to achieve. And I think that's a great sort of introduction to talk about some aspects of time management, of reaching goals and really being productive, because everybody has distractions in whatever it is their business is. And those hecklers just come in different forms and look like different things in our lives. They could be kids, they could be colleagues, they could be clients, right? They could be the weather, they could be various different things that get in the way and distract us. So in that context, you talked about, we're in an environment right now where things are opening up. You're juggling multiple types of businesses that, maybe one was put on hold and now it's coming up while the other one is building up. And I think a lot of people have a lot of challenges as they pivoted and now they're needing to pivot again. Yeah. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about your experience with that. What are some of the things that are working, what's not working, and see what comes up in that discussion that might support some people in the same position.
One of the things that I'm most thankful for from this past 15 months is the number of people who have started to work virtually and the prevalence of virtual assistants and their ability to take on some workload. Because exactly what you said, a lot of us, myself included, pivoted in this time period. And for me, it wasn't so much of a pivot, so much as a redirecting of focused energy. I've always had these various prongs within the business. So Total Buy-In started as a safety consulting business and specialized primarily in health and safety audits of people's safety programs. And it's great work to do, but it does not fulfill me in any way whatsoever. Where I got the most satisfaction in that was when we started really focusing on safety training and being able to help people understand their safety programs. And I would approach a lot of businesses from a self-development standpoint. And you being in the world understand exactly what I'm talking about. And for me, I would, it's that corporations are people too. I wanted to take that to the extreme level. So what is a corporation's actual true values, right? What are their priorities? What is the mindset of this entity that is a living, breathing thing? And start to say, well, if these are where your value sets are, if these are your highest values, that's going to dictate through the rest of you. So let's make sure that your training and all of your focus goes to that and getting people really in touch with what their business was supposed to be. And that translated into really good safety systems and people really enjoyed the training. But eventually I realized that the safety training where I was most effective was in training on communication. And that's where now we've got the whole other wing with the power to speak naked and the power of influence and the method and drop the mic and all of the programs that I've developed around public speaking. And it's not so that people can go up and be the next Tony Robbins. You and I both know the big man, and no one is going to be the next Tony Robbins. I want people to be the first them.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And my training is not for people to get up onto those big stages that people like Tony and Les Brown and, all of those types are on those big platforms. This is for the boardroom folks, our regular everyday.
We all have a stage. Yeah. Even if you're a parent, you've got a stage, you've got your family. So I think we need to be understanding, like you said, it's about communication and your stage can just look different. Just like I said, our distractions look different. Well, our stages look different.
Well, and that's exactly it. So all my focus then went on to, because everybody was having to get on Zoom, it became this natural thing where my training shifted to show people how to look good on camera, how to be more engaging, because it is harder. It's one thing to be in person and you can be flamboyant and you can be articulate and you can have a message. But when you have to keep the entertainment and focus of a group and you are this one little square in a box of 40, or even if you get people to flip the views, you're still this big on their monitor and they have their entire life around them, and trying to make that a more engaging experience for people and show them how to do it. Because I still think I come across well on camera. Like I've been doing this long enough and doing virtual training. I was doing virtual training before virtual training was a thing,
right?
Which was great for me because I was.
Oh, and you can go right into it, right?
Yes. But, to show people how to do what I do was a gift, but that became my center focus. And the nice thing was the safety audits became virtual. So the workload of doing a safety audit got cut down by almost 80%, but the revenue also got cut down by almost 80%. So it was one of those things where it got passed off to the team, and I kept the people employed that I could keep employed by having them take on that workload so that I could focus solely on the virtual trainings.
Can I stop you there? Because I want to address something. Because I think for many speakers, if there are speakers who are out there listening, and also other consultants and service providers, I've heard a lot of people say, and this was a big question in the beginning of the pandemic, how do you charge for virtual versus in person? And so you said that the revenue went down by 80%. Why is that? Because I did not find that revenues went down for my.
So the revenue went down for the audits, for the safety audits. And the reason for that is the safety audits are conducted based on a standard. So you don't just go in and go, oh yeah, I know you like it, and come up with your own tool. The tool is already there, whether people are using an ISO standard, whether that's, like the 45001 standard or 18001 previously. If they are, or where I am regionally, there's a thing called the core program, and there's 12 certifying partners, and my company audits for 7 of the 12 certifying partners. What happened was they canceled there's 3 methods of evaluating a program, and that is through documentation review, observation tours, and interviews. Well, when everybody's working from home, you're not doing observation tours and you're not doing interviews. And the observations and interviews made up approximately 75 to 80% of the audit process.
Right.
So if you're not going to do those, so if you're not going to do those 2 things, I can't ethically charge, right? And I charge on a day rate. So if it's only going to take me 3 days instead of these 18 days that it used to, well, I'm only going to charge for the 3 days. So in that scenario, the revenue went down, but my speaking fees didn't change.
So let's talk about that, right? Because there are a lot of people who said, I can't charge the same amount for my fees, service fees as well. I'm a coach. I can't charge the same amount. And so, my question is, why not? Your expertise is the same level. You're delivering the same. If you're somebody who can show up in a positive, impactful way online or on stage, then why does your value change? I just wanted to get your feedback on that and some of the things, a few tips that might help people in the business as they're doing both, or maybe they made the mistake and they lowered their rates. How can they approach this so that they're not giving away money?
Well, first of all, if they did it due to the pandemic, they needed to be very clear on all of their contracts. So like for me, with the audits, I stated very clearly that we were doing this instead of on a day rate, that we were doing it on a contract basis, that it was based on a severe reduction in the requirements of the audit process, and that next year, this would be what the amount would be. And I would put very clearly on it that it was one time, not that it was a discounted rate, but that it was a one-time exemption from the regular fee schedule, because of the extenuating circumstances. So if people weren't doing that up front, they're going to have to be doing a lot of PR and back end explaining of this was a one-time correction to help out. And I did, for a few long-term clients who genuinely were struggling, give them a reduction in fees and the ability to offset to another year just to help them with their cash flow and their cash management, as just being somebody understanding within the business world. Like, we don't know where we were at. And so I did allow for that. But when it came to the training, my, intellectual property, as you said, there was always value there. It didn't change.
Right.
And the majority of what I was doing was already being able to be provided virtually. And frankly, I show up better. So that's the other thing. If somebody was thinking to themselves, well, I can't charge this much as a speaker now that I'm doing it from, my apartment. Well, set up your apartment better. One of the things that I loved when all the theaters got shut down, because I was suddenly able to get theater space that would normally cost me, anywhere from $1,500 to $10,000 for a day booking. I was getting them for $200-$300 a day and full access with no interruptions. So a lot of the training that I would do, I would rent out a theater, because I was able to do it and do the social distancing. I was able to, have access to really good Wi-Fi because nobody was at these places. So nobody was draining it. I had better signal in some of these theaters than I would at my own house.
Right.
And so I made sure that I was providing the value for the service fee that I was charging, because look at how much I was saving. Yeah, I was renting out a theater to be able to give a virtual presentation and give it the gravitas that it deserved. Even my office, I've got it set up. I've got full production stage lighting, and it didn't cost much to do this. No. And if you're a professional speaker and you're charging X number of fees, you should be able to reinvest in yourself. If you're worth that fee, you should be able to get this gear. It doesn't cost much to be able to make it look professional. And I was saving on flights. I was saving on hotels. So to me, I was like, I would normally have spent X number of dollars to go to this venue. How can I duplicate it for them with that? Because that was already worked into the budget. And so for the few people who are like, well, we need to defer because we can't afford, I was like, I understand. Great. Call me back when things open up. And then for everybody else who was willing to do it, I just made sure that what I was giving was of the highest quality and of the highest value. And in fact, it's exploded because I put the time and effort in. Now my calendar is booked. And you and I were talking before we started the show that my challenge now is juggling all the people who did defer and all the people who agreed to have me back. Now that the border is about to open, because I'm in Canada, now all these US bookings that I had deferred for 12 to 18 months are like, okay, great. So September, you're good to come down, and trying to now fit that back in. Like I said, I wasn't a pivot. It was just energy focus was one way.
Right.
And now I've got to retrain that laser. And now it's here, and it's finding the power. Right? Like I'm just throttling up different engines at this point, trying to keep this aircraft flying.
So what are 3 things that our guests could take away that, tips, tricks, tools, hacks that they could put into place that would help them with the same challenge that, they've focused their energy in one area, they're seeing results, but now they're seeing that there's too much?
Well, I think the first one that's really been helpful for me, what is the end game? Like, you have to know what that end target is. For me, it obviously, your audience doesn't know. So let's tell your audience. For me, currently, the focus is really pushing the online training. It was something that we had geared up 18 months ago. We were supposed to be doing a whole bunch of, we were supposed to do a big, huge international tour with the training sessions and seminars and workshops. And that obviously got put on hold. But that is revenue generating. Like was not only my focus and what I wanted to do and get done, but that's also where the majority of the revenue is being generated. So it's kind of that Venn diagram. What is the end goal? And on top of that, what is revenue generating? And where do the two intersect? Because that's where I need to focus my energy. And I'm lucky in that all of these speaking engagements are further pushing book sales and course tickets to the courses, tickets to the workshops, enrollment in the online courses. All of these efforts are feeding it. And then everything else, particularly like on the safety side of my business, all those audits, we've got the auditors that are trained. I've got a great team that can take it. It's basically self-sufficient. So now I just need to do a pulse check once a month, maybe, and just say, where are we at? What do I need other supports do I need to offer as the head of this company? How do I need to support you? what do you need to keep this going so that I don't need to be here? And so that's that, and surrounding myself with a good team. I have team members that I can trust. So my three tips. You
mentioned earlier taking advantage of virtual assistants, right? So if you can't, for people who are listening, right? So the first thing you said is just get really crystal clear on what the goal is and make sure that you're focused on, I'm going to put it in my words, the 20% that makes 80% of the difference. It's what's driving the results of the business. And then surround yourself so that you can get the other things done with a great team. And that could be somebody that you hire full-time, or if you only need part-time, you only need certain tasks, you can definitely leverage virtual assistants. I mean, I have upped my number of virtual assistants doing different things for me. It really takes a lot of burden off you so that you can focus your energy on the things that are most important.
Well, and vetting the VAs too. Like, I think there was an interesting thing that happened a few years ago where VAs started to become really popular. Like, I don't know if it was because Tim Ferriss published the 4-Hour Work Week or what it was, but all of a sudden there was this, not only an explosion of the use and taking advantage of the ability to have virtual assistants, but the prevalence of the various companies that offered those services. But I think people forgot that you're still employing somebody, and you need to hire for fit, and don't be afraid to go to various companies and ask them for even just a trial or just to interview and check and test. Because one of the things that has made my organization as successful as it is that I hire for fit. And my hiring process is bizarre, like just bizarre. One of the first things I'll ask is, what's people's favorite musical taste? It has
it's got to fit your musical taste in order for them to work for you.
Well, it's not
That's kind of bizarre. That doesn't have anything to do with,
Exactly. But when I am actually in the office, when the office is open and I'm there, I blare show tunes and I sing them at the top of my lung because that's part of my preparation. It's part of my practice. And sometimes I'm actually rehearsing for a show. So if people don't like musicals, they're not going to like working at my office. It doesn't mean that they won't necessarily fit in or would be a good employee, but I need to know how, if they are the ideal candidate, I need to know how to identify it. So as weird as it is, it's one of the questions. Right. What's your favorite musical genre?
Right. So we all have our own weird questions. So nobody's going to take yours. If you're listening and you're looking to hire somebody, you definitely need to hire for fit, to understand. What I find also is that people, they don't recognize that you have to have a clear idea of what it is that you want to accomplish. You can't just hire somebody and say, hey, you're in charge of X, and they don't know what it is that you want to accomplish. So I think it's also that is they need to know how to hire, but they need to first get clear on what it is they're really looking to achieve and how that person is going to, and what you're going to need them to do to make that happen. So any
organization is going to be a reflection of the person who's put it together or the people that have put it together. And I mean, I go back to the coaching companies as individuals, right? Like using the self-help, you need to have the self-awareness to know who you are and what your organization does. And that's the other thing too. Like, I am a friendly organization. I want to think that I am a supportive and encouraging one. So any of the people that I hire have to have kind of this attitude of can do. I need to have people who are definitely independent thinkers, because as much as I teach and practice communication skills, you ask anybody who works with me, sometimes I have an absolutely deplorable and just god-awful ability to actually communicate what it is that I need. I feel the worst for my web designer. Tracy is a saint among saints, because I will be like, I don't like that. She'll show me a couple of mock-ups and I'll be like, I don't like that. I don't like that. I don't like that. And she'll go, what do you like? I said, I don't know, but I know I don't like that.
And well, sometimes that's where you got to start.
Right. And so for people to be able to interpret the brain that is Taylor Foley cannot be easy. And that's, again, where I have a great team that I've put together, because they understand my idiosyncrasies and they're smarter than me. I was smart enough to hire people smarter than me and who have their own levels of genius, who I can now just kind of defer to and be like, you tell me, let's test it out. And that's the other thing too. I'm not somebody who tells somebody what road to drive on. I know what the end destination is. If I need to get to Tallahassee, I could put it into the GPS. I can say, I'm starting here and I need to get there, but I need to be able, I don't care what road you take. You want to take I-95? Great. You want to take a couple of backcountry roads because they're scenic and you will be inspired? You do that. I don't care the road you take as long as we get to Tallahassee.
Right.
And I don't care if we take it in a car, a helicopter, a plane, or a boat. You get me there.
And, that's an important thing for people who are listening is the pandemic, especially, it amplified our dysfunctions. And so a lot of people who were, let's say, just on the borderline of control freaks or micromanagers, when people would move out of the office, they got this feeling of I need to control and needed to have more of a say in the process and the way that they did it and how they were going to get to that place. And I think the most successful people are typically the ones that can scale and grow their business, are the ones, like you're saying, that give people the freedom and flexibility to bring in their genius and their creativity to get to that end result. So what's a tip that you could give people that allows you to have confidence in the people that you're working with and give them that autonomy? What's something that they could practice that would help them with that?
Start with a small task that you don't have a preconceived notion on how it needs to be finished, or something that is so genuinely outside of your sphere of comprehension that however they come up with it is obviously the way because you just didn't know how to do it. And start with those to release some of that control. And part of that is to be able to acknowledge that you don't know how to do it. And I don't know the first thing about web design. So Tracy, you tell me. I know what I don't like visually because I've been in the arts for years. And so I just know, and I also know just kind of how I innately respond to things. So I look at a website and I go, nah, too busy or too plain or whatever. I just don't like it. It's the same way that I would walk through the Louvre. There are pieces of art that are going to speak to me and there are pieces of art that don't. And so I will just be like, no, I don't like that one. But I would say start with those small tasks, the things that don't matter.
I think that's the key too, right? It's something that doesn't matter. And you said something that you don't know how to do. And then that way, with those two things in that way, you can just sort of set the goal and forget it until they come back to you or until the date that you organize. Maybe that's the last thing, is to set a deadline.
And then have some critical analysis. What did they give you the deliverable that you wanted? And have that discussion back and forth. And if you want to go one level further, be open to critical feedback. Ask them when they're done the task, did I provide enough direction for you to be able to do this effectively? Was there anything that I could have provided that would have helped you get this done quicker? Some of those questions, because that will help you further give them more and more responsibility in a way that will set them up for success. And then it just becomes that it's like, any other training scenario, right? You slowly open up the boundaries until somebody can go free range and know that they're always going to come back to the ranch house.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much. We're coming to the end of our time for the show. Just want to ask you a couple quick questions and then people can find out where they can best reach you. So I ask everybody this question because I love the variant of answers. What is your definition of productivity and why?
My definition of productivity would be entropy, actually. And what I mean by that is how efficient is the process. And it doesn't have to be, that doesn't necessarily mean quickest. What I mean by efficient is there is going to be that Kaizen point where you've reached optimal, where if you went any faster, you would start to decrease quality. But if you went any slower, you're wasting time. So when you can find that Kaizen, that optimal, that is my idea of productivity, where you have reached the optimal efficiency within the system and you have minimized entropy or energy loss. That's typically how I define my own productivity and subsequently my own success.
And do you have a process for finding that point?
Yeah, pushing it, A/B testing. If I go a little bit faster, do I maintain the quality? Because the thing is too, it's kind of like, and I learned this in hockey. I was a goaltender and, I would skate with all of the rest of the players and I would keep up. But when I would strip off the pads, I was like 15% faster than everybody. Like I could skate faster because I had to get to their pace using the gear and being encumbered a little bit more. And now you see these kids all the time. They've got the parachutes on their backpacks and, they're skating with resistance and, they're pushing their limits. And it's only by pushing your limit that you can find out if it's too much or if you were actually able to do that 10%, 15%, 20% more. but also being conscious of what is the end goal. It always comes back to what is the end goal? What is the desired outcome? And do I need to do it faster? That's another question that I like to ask. Do I need to do it faster? Do I need to do it cheaper? Do I need to do it? I'm constantly asking that. And that's because, I'm a big fan of Michael Crichton and Jurassic Park. Your scientists were so preoccupied with whether or not they could, and they didn't stop to ask if they should. And that's stuck with me for as long as I first read that book and then when I first saw the movie.
Cool. I like it. So tell me, is there anything that we missed that you really wanted to share with the group that you wanted to bring to us now?
Well, just, don't be afraid to reach out for help and ask for it, especially now. I think one of the nice things that has happened in the last 18 months is that as much as there have been some divisions in thought, there's also been a coming together of resources and people wanting to share and, find your community that will be able to help you. And if anybody is finding value in what you're doing, Penny, one of the things that I would ask for people to do is hit pause right now on whatever device, whatever they're listening to, whatever platform they have this on, because if they're getting value out of Take Back Time, I know the amount of effort that goes into producing these shows. And I'm lucky because I'm just a host, or I'm just a guest, right? I don't have the encumbrance of a host and having to do everything. I just get to show up and be pretty and talky and walk on my way. But you have to actually do this. So if people are getting value from what you're doing, I would ask them to hit pause right now, give this a 5-star review on whatever platform they're listening to. If they have the option, click the automatic download so that they don't even have to think about it. And the content that you're producing can just come to them every week. And if they could do me that favor, then if they give you a 5-star review, they can come over to my website, which is SeanTylerFoley.com, SeanTylerFoley. And I'll give them a free download of the method, which is 5 insider secrets I've learned over 35 years of public speaking. It's my gift to them, but only, Penny, only if they take the time to take back time and give this a 5-star review.
There you go. Because by getting your 5 insider secrets, they're going to take back time because it's going to help them to be more strategic in how they go about managing their stages.
Yes, hopefully it accelerates their learning curve. And if anybody wants any more information, it's all on the website. But definitely, I can't thank you enough for having me on the show because I listen regularly because you've got such good tips and tricks. And I just love coming on and being and learning what I learn every time I get to listen. So to be a guest on this was a great honor and I appreciate it. Thank you, Penny.
Well, thank you, Tyler. So thanks for being here. Great tips, great conversation. Loved it. Hope you all loved it too. And as you know, we're here every week. We're putting together, as Tyler said, it's hard finding really great guests for you guys, but I do it because I love you and I love the fact that you're listening and you're taking notes and you're interested in really thinking, acting, and being more strategic in everything that you do. So check us out next week and make sure you subscribe. And like Tyler said, if you wanted to, I would love it if you'd leave a review. My name is Penny Zenker, and this is Take Back Time. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Hey, thank you for spending this time with me. It really means a lot. If you're feeling a little off, distracted, overwhelmed, stuck, or just out of sync, remember that's your signal to reset. And that's all it takes, just recognizing one reset moment at a time. So stay tuned for more tips, tools, tricks, stories, strategies, all here on Time to Reset. We'll see you in the next episode.